A presence moves beside us, close enough to touch, yet forever hidden from our eyes, a world that breathes in the shadows while we walk in the light. Every moment of your life, something is watching you from a place you cannot see, observing your steps, your silence, your weaknesses, and your strength. This is not imagination, and it is not myth. It is the unseen world that Allah, the Most High, warned us about long before we were born. Before we go deeper, tell me in the comments from which country you are watching this video, and if you love Islam and want more content like this, join this channel and support this journey. Now, listen closely, because the reality you are about to hear is a part of your life, whether you acknowledge it or not. There exists an entire creation whose movements glide through the spaces that separate our world from the hidden one. They walk where we cannot walk, they see what we cannot see, and they notice the vulnerabilities we pretend we do not have. They have watched nations rise and fall, families grow and disappear, and individuals struggle with battles no human eye has ever witnessed. The Qur'an reveals their presence without mystery. They see us from places where we cannot see them. It is a clear reminder that the universe is not limited to what our senses can grasp. Allah created layers of existence, and the human mind can only comprehend a fraction of it. To deny this world is to deny the words of Allah Himself, and to ignore it is to misunderstand a crucial part of the test of life. These hidden beings, the Jinn, are not spirits drifting without purpose. They are a crafted creation with intelligence, emotion, and accountability. Their world overlaps ours like a shadow merged with its own form, and though invisible, the effects of their presence echo in temptations, protection, and the unseen struggles that shape our choices. A believer who understands this reality walks through life with deeper awareness, recognizing that there are forces whispering, forces guarding, and forces testing the resilience of the heart every single day. This unseen world does not exist to terrify us, but to teach us that life is more complex than the surface of what we see, and that our journey is supervised by beings created long before humanity took its first breath. Long before the clay of Adam was shaped and breathed into, the universe already held another creation with purpose and responsibility. Allah fashioned the Jinn from smokeless fire, a fire of purity and intensity beyond human imagination. Their bodies were not flesh and bone, but something fluid, swift, and subtle. They lived on earth long before humans existed, experiencing time in a manner different from us, but bound by death, judgment, and the command of Allah just as we are. They married, they raised families, they built communities, and they filled the world with their own forms of life. Some of them worshipped Allah with sincerity, while others drifted into corruption, arrogance, and disobedience. When Allah created Adam from clay and honored him, a turning point arrived that shaped the destiny of both creations. Iblis, a jinn who had risen to a high rank among the angels through worship and obedience, refused the command to bow to Adam. His pride, fueled by the belief that fire was superior to clay, sealed his disgrace. His fall was not a fall of power, but a fall of arrogance, and it sparked a vow that still affects every descendant of Adam today. He swore that he would mislead humanity until the day of judgment, not through force, but through whispers, illusions, and desires. And with that single act of rebellion, the unseen world and the human world became intertwined in a long struggle that continues with every heart that beats on earth. The creation of humans was not merely the beginning of a new species, it was the beginning of a test, a confrontation between obedience and arrogance, humility and pride, faith and deception. This story reminds every believer that our struggles on earth did not begin here. They began long before our souls entered our bodies, in a world shaped by fire, command, and the divine decree of Allah, who knows all that was, all that is, and all that will be. The Jinn perceive existence in ways that humans cannot. Their movement is fluid, rapid, and almost effortless, traversing distances in moments, entering spaces we cannot access, and flowing through the world with a swiftness that resembles wind and fire combined. Their bodies do not obey the physical limits of ours, and their senses capture layers of reality hidden from human perception. They can watch us from angles we cannot detect, observe our habits with patience, and notice the very subtle weaknesses that we often ignore within ourselves. The Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, explained that the Jinn can move through the human body in a manner similar to how blood flows, a description that highlights their ability to influence, approach, and withdraw without being seen or physically felt. They think with intelligence, feel emotions, form alliances, and experience fear and regret. But despite their abilities, they remain powerless before the decree of Allah. They cannot see the future, they cannot read the preserved tablet, and they cannot override the protection that Allah grants to His believers. Their strengths are real, yet their limitations are absolute. Many people imagine that the Jinn possess unlimited power, but in truth, their power is weak when confronted with sincere faith, remembrance, and steadfastness. They may observe us, they may whisper, they may attempt to influence emotions or decisions, but they cannot force a believer to do anything. Their existence serves as a reminder that our struggles are often unseen, our tests are deeper than what the eye can measure, and our protection depends not on physical strength, but on the spiritual connection we build with Allah. To understand the Jinn is to understand that the unseen world is part of the test of life, one that requires wisdom, awareness, and unwavering trust in the one who controls all realms, seen and unseen. There is a moment in every person's life when a thought appears so suddenly, so quietly, that it feels as if it did not come from the mind at all. A whisper telling you to delay your prayer, to stay silent when you should apologize, to continue an argument when you know it is wrong. These are not accidents. They are deliberate attempts from the unseen world to push you toward choices that weaken your connection with Allah. Among the Jinn are beings whose entire mission is to whisper, to suggest, to plant seeds of doubt, regret, and confusion. Their method is subtle, not loud, slow, not sudden, persistent, not forceful. The Qur'an describes them as the whisperers who retreat the moment Allah is remembered, showing that even the smallest remembrance of the Most Merciful sends them fleeing. They study human weakness with a level of attention we rarely give ourselves, recognizing anger, loneliness, frustration, and temptation as opportunities. They do not have the power to command your limbs or seize your will, but they know how to decorate sin, how to beautify what is harmful, and how to make the path toward disobedience seem harmless until it becomes habitual. Their whispers slip into moments when your heart is unguarded during exhaustion, emotional turmoil, or periods of spiritual distance. They feed on distraction, creating illusions of urgency around worldly desires while making acts of worship feel heavy and inconvenient. When a believer strengthens their faith, the whisperer grows weaker. When the believer forgets Allah, the whisperer finds room to operate. This unseen influence is a lifelong struggle, a personal battle tailored to each individual's vulnerabilities. But though the whisperer is persistent, the believer's shield is powerful, and even a single sincere remembrance of Allah can break chains that the whisperer spent years trying to build. Yet, In this unseen realm where whispers attempt to mislead, Allah's mercy manifests in protection that surrounds the believer like an invisible fortress. The angels created from pure light do not leave a believer alone for a single moment. Two angels record every deed, guarding both the outer actions and the inner intentions by the command of Allah. Other angels walk with the believer, protecting them from harm that they never even realize approached. There are dangers that come close, harm that nearly arrives, accidents that almost occur, and whispers that nearly take hold. But Allah sends His guardians to protect the believer from what they cannot see. When a person recites Ayat al-Kursi before sleeping, a protection descends that not even the most persistent shayateen can penetrate until dawn. When a home is filled with the recitation of Surah al-Baqarah, the forces of darkness cannot remain inside. When someone remembers Allah in the morning and evening, a shield surrounds their heart, protecting them from fear, envy, harmful jinn, and unseen threats. The angels are not simply observers. They are protectors, messengers of mercy, and carriers of tranquility. Their presence is a silent reassurance that a believer is never unguarded, never abandoned, and never walking alone. Even in moments of hardship, when fear touches the heart or loneliness weighs heavily on the soul, the angels remain near, recording patience, strengthening the believer, and defending them against unseen forces that would otherwise overwhelm them. This divine protection is one of the greatest blessings a believer can have, a blessing so constant that many people forget that every safe breath, every peaceful moment, and every escape from harm was guided by angels who obey only Allah and work tirelessly to guard those who remember Him. Still, the intersection between human life and jinn influence is not always distant or symbolic. There are times when the worlds touch, when the boundary becomes thin, and when the influence of jinn becomes more direct. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, taught that jinn move through abandoned places, dirty areas, and locations where people engage in sinful acts. These environments attract them the way light attracts moths. When people leave their homes without mentioning Allah, the jinn may enter. When people allow anger to dominate their hearts, the jinn may exploit that opening. When people speak harshly, isolate themselves, or fall into despair, the jinn may find opportunities to create fear, confusion, and emotional instability. Sometimes they influence dreams, bringing images that disturb the mind or feelings that leave a person unsettled. Sometimes they may attach themselves to an individual through prolonged fear, grief, or repeated exposure to sinful environments. But even in these scenarios, their power remains limited and the believer's strength remains supreme. Ruqya, the recitation of Qur'an, sincere worship, seeking refuge in Allah, and maintaining a life of remembrance can drive away even the most persistent jinn. The words of Allah are more powerful than any unseen being, and a heart anchored in faith is more unshakable than any force of whispers. The interference of harmful jinn is real, but it is not undefeatable. Those who protect their hearts with dhikr, those who discipline their tongues, those who guard their homes with Qur'an, and those who rely on Allah find that the jinn cannot harm them, cannot influence them, and cannot overpower their inner peace. The boundary between the seen and unseen may be mysterious, but the believer who clings to the guidance of Allah walks with confidence, knowing that the unseen is fully controlled by the one who designed it. And when the heart understands that, fear disappears, doubt fades, and the believer rises into a state of strength that no whisper can penetrate and no jinn can overcome. There comes a moment in every human life when the veil between the seen and unseen begins to thin, a moment no one can escape, where the reality that was once hidden becomes clearer than anything the eyes ever witnessed in the world. This moment arrives at death, when the soul separates from the body and finally sees what it had only been told about. As the final breaths draw near, the dying person begins to perceive beings they never saw before, angels whose appearance reflects the destiny that awaits. For the believer, the angels descend with faces that radiate beauty, their presence calming the fear that grips the heart, their voices calling the soul toward a mercy that feels familiar, as though the soul has always known it deep within. For those who turned away from guidance, the sight is different. The angels appear in a form that terrifies, their presence heavier than any fear a human heart can contain. At that moment, the Jinn who once whispered, who once tried to influence, who once attempted to mislead, become irrelevant and powerless, for their world ends where this moment begins. The soul finally understands that the unseen was not a distant story but a companion that walked with it every day of its life. The journey does not end with the last breath. When the soul is laid in the grave, another unseen reality unfolds. Two angels, Munkar and Nakir, approach with questions that reveal the truth of a person's heart. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? Who is your prophet? The grave becomes either a garden from the gardens of paradise or a pit from the pits of the fire. In that darkness, no wealth, no status, no friend, and no illusion can help. Only sincerity, faith, and the mercy of Allah bring comfort. This unveiling of the unseen world reminds every believer that the journey of life is not random. It is a preparation for the moment when the soul witnesses what it once believed without seeing. The Jinn, who saw us from angles we could not perceive, will no longer have access to us, for their influence was confined to the world of tests. In the grave, the reality becomes clear. Every whisper, every temptation, every protection, and every act of worship was part of a much larger story, one that continues beyond the post-body's final rest. Because of this unseen journey, the guidance of Allah in protecting oneself from the unseen forces becomes even more valuable. Islam does not teach believers to fear the Jinn, nor does it ask them to obsess over the unseen. Instead, it provides a complete and simple path of protection rooted in remembrance, worship, and trust in Allah. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, taught that the recitation of Surah Al-Baqarah expels shayateen from the home, revealing that the forces of darkness cannot coexist with the light of Qur'an. Ayat al-Kursi, recited at night, places a guardian over the believer until the morning, a guardian that blocks every unseen threat. The morning and evening adhkar form a shield so strong that no jinn, no whisperer, and no harm can penetrate without the permission of Allah. And Allah does not grant permission to harm a heart that relies on Him sincerely. These practices are not complicated. They are daily habits that take minutes, yet provide protection that lasts hours, days, and even weeks. In moments of fear, reciting Surah Al-Falaq and Surah An-Nas brings a calm that pushes away the darkness and pulls the soul closer to Allah. When people abandon these protections, their hearts become exposed, leaving openings for whispers to slip through. But when they maintain remembrance, their homes become filled with angels, and the influence of harmful jinn fades like shadows dissolving in light. Seeking protection from Allah is not only a shield against unseen forces, it is a spiritual discipline that strengthens the soul, increases awareness, and keeps the believer connected to their Lord in every moment. It teaches us that true safety does not come from worldly power but from spiritual closeness, and that every believer, regardless of strength, becomes powerful when they remember Allah with sincerity. All of this leads to the deeper purpose behind the existence of the unseen world. Allah did not conceal the jinn from us to frighten us, nor did He reveal their existence to distract us. He created an entire unseen realm to remind us that faith is more than what the eyes perceive. The jinn can whisper, but they cannot force. They can tempt, but they cannot control. The angels can protect, but only by the permission of the one who commands them. The entire unseen world operates under the authority of Allah, and He is the one who tests the human heart with whispers, choices, signs, and spiritual obstacles. The test of life is not simply to resist the whispers of the jinn, it is to maintain remembrance of Allah in a world filled with distractions, both seen and unseen. It is to walk with trust, knowing that you are observed by beings you cannot see but protected by a Lord who sees everything. The purpose of revealing this unseen realm is to strengthen our awareness, deepen our faith, and help us understand that life is a journey watched, recorded, and guided with precision. Those who hold firm to the rope of Allah walk through life with a heart that remains steady no matter how strong the whispers become. Fear does not dominate them, because they know that everything in the unseen world bows to the command of Allah. Doubt does not overwhelm them, because faith fills the spaces where fear tries to enter. The unseen world becomes not a source of terror, but a reminder of Allah's wisdom and mercy. Every whisper becomes a chance to earn reward by resisting. Every protection becomes a reminder of Allah's love. Every test becomes an opportunity to rise spiritually. And every moment of awareness becomes a step closer to a heart that trusts its Creator fully. When a believer understands this, they no longer fear the unseen, they fear losing connection with the one who created it. They walk with confidence, humility, and clarity, knowing that everything they face, whether visible or invisible, is part of a divine plan that leads them closer to their destiny in the hereafter. And in that understanding lies the true victory over every whisper, every shadow, and every unseen test in this world.